Nobody anticipated that a single statement could send ripples through the world of politics. When Barack Obama, a figure many see as calm, measured, and cautious, turned his attention toward a rising conservative commentator, few expected anything unusual. But what unfolded was not only surprising, it was shocking. His words cut through the noise, igniting debates, exposing tensions, and leaving audiences frozen in disbelief. The target of his comment, Charlie Kirk, had long been a vocal critic of progressive politics. Yet this moment wasn't just about politics. It was about history, race, and the raw power of truth colliding with provocation. Barack Obama's presence in American politics has always carried weight beyond the ordinary. To millions, he remains a symbol of hope, progress, and the first black president whose legacy reshaped history. Yet his legacy also attracts constant attacks from conservative voices. Among them, Charlie Kirk emerged as a relentless critic, a young conservative figure who thrives on sharp words and polarizing commentary. For years, Kirk built a reputation for framing Obama as the architect of division, a leader who, according to him, pushed the country away from its roots. His commentary resonated with audiences eager to challenge progressive ideals, amplifying an already fierce political divide. But what most people didn't see was the growing undercurrent of racial undertones in those attacks. Time and again, subtle digs about Obama's identity, his background, and his role in shifting America's demographics became part of Kirk's narrative. To some, they were just political criticisms. To others, they carried the weight of coded language that touched on America's deepest racial wounds. Obama, known for his restraint, often let critics exhaust themselves. Silence, after all, had been his strategy for years. But silence has limits, and when the moment came, his response wasn't loud or angry. It was surgical. A few carefully chosen words, delivered with calm precision, would spark a storm no one saw coming. It began during a public appearance, where Obama was reflecting on the state of American discourse. He spoke of unity, of building bridges in a nation divided by ideology and fear. Yet when his comments shifted toward the voices fueling division, the atmosphere shifted. His tone, steady but sharpened, carried the weight of years of patience stretched thin. Observers leaned forward, sensing the shift. His remarks were not directed at a faceless crowd of critics, but at one figure in particular. When he mentioned Charlie Kirk, the room fell into a hush. Few expected Obama to call him out. Kirk had made a career out of using Obama's presidency as a backdrop for warnings of cultural decline. But now the roles were reversed. Obama was setting the stage. What followed was not an attack filled with insults, but a piercing observation. He described how commentary that disguises itself as patriotism can sometimes fan the flames of fear, particularly when it draws on stereotypes, misinformation, or racial undertones. Without naming hatred directly, Obama exposed the mechanics of it, how small seeds of resentment, repeated often enough, grow into movements that divide rather than unite. Those words struck deeply. In a single moment, Obama reframed Kirk's message not as spirited political debate, but as something more dangerous. The suggestion that Kirk's rhetoric wasn't just about policy, but about identity and belonging, hit with devastating force. Social media erupted instantly. Supporters of Kirk called it unfair, branding Obama's words as another example of elites silencing conservative voices. But others saw it differently. They recognized what many had quietly felt for years, that beneath the surface of these attacks lay something rooted in America's painful history of racial injustice. And while Kirk himself rushed to respond with characteristic fire, the shadow of Obama's words lingered. The nation found itself in yet another cultural flashpoint, one that forced people to question not just political positions, but the values shaping their country's future. The height of the storm came when media outlets across the spectrum amplified Obama's comment. Headlines blared, "Obama shocks nation with statement on Charlie Kirk." Conservative platforms spun it as proof of liberal arrogance, while progressive commentators saw it as overdue truth-telling. But what made this moment reach its peak was not the words themselves, it was the timing. In an era already inflamed by debates on race, immigration, and political identity, Obama's choice to confront Kirk's rhetoric directly was like striking a match in dry grass. Communities of color saw in Obama's comment a reflection of their lived experience. The subtle ways they had felt dismissed or belittled in public debates were suddenly spoken aloud by someone who understood the stakes. It wasn't simply a clash of ideologies. It was a battle over dignity, belonging, and the right to define what America means. Kirk's allies doubled down, portraying him as the underdog, silenced for daring to speak truths that elites wanted hidden. Yet for every defense raised, there was a counterpoint reminding audiences of the consequences words can carry. Obama's precision had cut through the noise, and no amount of bluster could erase the fact that he had shifted the conversation from policy disputes to the heart of racial justice. This was not just political theater. It was a moment that forced America to stare, once again, at its deepest divides and the uncomfortable truths within them. In the aftermath, the echoes of Obama's comment continued to reverberate. Comment sections filled with arguments, podcasts dissected every word, and communities across the nation debated what it all meant. Some dismissed it as political drama, while others recognized it as a rare instance where a leader peeled back the surface to reveal the truth beneath. What mattered most wasn't whether people agreed or disagreed with Obama's words, but the fact that they sparked reflection. Suddenly, conversations about coded language, racial undertones, and the impact of political commentary gained new urgency. What many had ignored or brushed aside was thrust into the spotlight. For Charlie Kirk, the moment became both a challenge and an opportunity. Proof that his influence had grown to the point of drawing Obama's attention, yet also a reminder of the weight his words carried. For Obama, it was a reminder that silence has limits, that even the most disciplined leaders sometimes must speak directly when the stakes demand it. The legacy of this exchange will not be measured in a single news cycle, but in the questions it leaves behind. How much do words matter in shaping national unity? How often does rhetoric wrapped in patriotism mask divisions that tear at the fabric of society? Nobody saw it coming. Nobody expected Obama, known for his caution, to deliver a comment that cut so sharply. And yet when he did, it forced a reckoning. It asked Americans to decide whether they will allow fear and resentment to define their future, or whether they will face uncomfortable truths and choose a different path. And so the question lingers. When history looks back on this moment, will it remember it as just another clash of personalities or as the spark of something greater?